July basically I think the 23rd and 24th, and it really talks about how to trim your waste and maximize your flexibility in your supply chain. Much like most of us, the last couple of years, we finally are coming out of a long, deep recession. We were really kind of focused on productivity, cost reductions, or an order of the day, and we really had to figure out how to do more with less. So with that, a lot of lean interest was there, and a number of tools were adopted from the Toyota production system. And I'm going to be covering some of that to do today, how you can do and focus on growing with less. Okay, on this workshop coming up, we basically cover really 5 areas. Provide principles of supply chain management, highlight the forms of waste, the 7 or 8 areas of waste in the supply chain, explain the lean toolbox and methods you can apply within your operation. And many of the tools that we use in manufacturing really apply to the supply chain. We'll describe simple graphic processes for prioritizing improvements and identifying corrective actions. And we'll give you a lot of takeaways, including workshops and projects that you can bring back to your business. So a little bit about today's focus is really creating the supply chain. And pretty typical, what's the role of purchasing, supply chain, and management and operations, and what we can do to help you get that a little bit better. What I've done in this presentation and what we've pulled together, we basically have learned from the best. From the Shingo Prize, Toyota, Delphi, Autoleaf, Han, just to name a few, and Johnson's Controls. And as we were doing these plant tours, not only for Shingo, but for the AME Excellence Award, we actually captured the best of the best, and we could try to put it in this workshop. And you're just going to hear a little about it today in this 1-hour presentation. We also studied a lot of books and how we can apply in the leaning. If you were applying for the AME AME Shingo SME bronze, silver, gold certifications, so these are a lot of the books you really have to read to get that certification. Anything from Learning to See from John Shook to Lean Thinking from James Walbach, just to name a few. Okay, let's talk about the creating the lean supply chain. You got your environment, you got your design systems, you got your tools and your methods that you have to apply in your bullseye to be successful. And with that, you got to look at, you got to have communication, you have to have trust, need for change, and really a strategy and a vision. And then what you do is you take that and you build it into what do you need to do on your principles on flow, inventory reduction, and defect reduction. And and the tools within the methods are covered in more detail in this 2-day workshop coming up. On the left, you'll see the House of Lean, which you see in many textbooks in regards to what are the pillars on the Toyota production system. What we try to do in this workshop is we'll break it down into lean tools that you can apply. And these are just to name a few that are over here on the right. The lean enterprise, and really what we're talking about here is the complete chain in circles. I mean, this chart indicates the internal supply chain. We talk about each person in each department as both a customer and a supplier within the circle. The takeaway here is suppliers can only meet customer expectations when it's well defined. So how well are you defining your customer requirements? We spend a lot of time talking about that, really understanding what's important to them. Are you doing a supplier satisfaction survey? What feedback systems do you use today? What changes are you making in your value stream as the result of the feedback you're getting from your customer base? Do you really understand your value stream for your manufacturing and for your procurement line? These are all topics that are really important to be successful. And here again, you got your supplier, you got your production, and you got your customer. It's really a simple value stream. What are we trying to do here? We're seeking improvements. We want a culture for continuous improvement. And part of that is we need to introduce some concepts. Velocity, waste elimination. We're talking about the 7 or 8 areas of waste, and the importance of time. The key here is to production flow is not only the production flow, but the information of flow is critical, especially in your supply chain. Does your supply chain really understand what the end requirements are? How are you getting feedback from them in regards to how are they doing? What type of closed circle do you have within your production process? And here again, what's lean thinking? It's very simple. Lean thinking is derived from success of the Toyota Motor Company. We have here in San Antonio, we have the Tundra plant, and it really focuses on elimination of non-added value. And what you're dealing with is 5 methods that we talk about. We'll focus on the customer value, that value stream, elimination of obstacles to create that flow of value, allowing the customer to pull that value, and methods of continuous improvement. So here again, we talked about how this applies within the office area, the procurement area, based on what we do in the factory. We'll have the old process, and then we'll focus on lean improvements. What are we trying to do is reduce the cycle time and increase flexibility. And we established the new process. And what we want from this is faster feedback on process performance, increase the learning cycles. We want to improve first pass yield. Obviously, we want to improve productivity, improve process stability, results in improving throughput, uncover process deficiencies, focus on problem resolution, work in process, reduce the risk, and improve customer satisfaction. What are we looking at? Flexibility and responsiveness. What's the value stream? It's got to be from the customer's perspective. What are we looking at? No waiting, no rework on flow. What do we need to do for work? We need to define standard work, and how do we build in quality? We don't want to inspect in quality. Here again, this is based on some research that was done on what a typical buyer's activity could be on a daily log. And if you've ever done any workplace or industrial engineering analysis on your teams, this is a pretty simple task, just asking people to sit down and record where they're spending their time on a day. But if you take a look here on Jane's daily log slate, she'll show up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and from 7 to 8, she'll get her coffee, emails, voicemails, and etc. And here again, what value is that? So we talk about value and non-added value in this course. And the whole purpose is let's eliminate the non-added value. So 0 value, 1 hour, and then inventory status meetings. You can see, yuck, every day I've got to sit through this thing. What part of that is mine is 5 minutes, but I have to sit there for 55 minutes, or Jane does. So if you kind of go through this schedule for Jane, as we analyze it, and an 8-hour day, she basically had 1.5 hours of value and 6.5 hours of non-added value. So what can we do to eliminate the non-added value? So we'll talk a lot about that in the exercises that we do in this course, and have discussions on how we can eliminate these areas of waste. What are the opportunities from this thing? And this is pretty historic, and we'll talk some more at the end on the Lean Sensi, which is a free application you can download to benchmark yourself. But here again, depending upon where you are on your lean journey, these are some of the results you can get in the supply chain if you do really apply these tools within the organization. You can get a 20 to 60% reduction in lead times, an improvement of over 50% in resource utilization. You can impact your gross margins. You can gain productivity capacity, and you can have an impact, a dynamic impact on schedule and profitability. And this was some research that was done back in 2011 and 12. So how do we apply the value stream? You know, it's lean thinking and how we apply it within to save time, save cost, extended capacity, and value resources. At the bottom, you're looking at a typical value stream, you know, error correction loops that we may have, cycle approvals, task wait times, queues, and whatever. And up over on the right on the top, that's where we want to drive it. We want to cut that process in half through this whole exercise, and what can we do to eliminate it? What's waste? And here again, anything other than the minimum amount of equipment, material, parts, space, and workers' time, which are absolutely essential to add value to the product. Great definition. Here again, waste is the root issue. We're looking for a solution. Without waste, there is no roadmap to improvement. So the goal is here, let's get rid of the waste. Okay, from a cycle time or supply chain management perspective, waste is the element of processing that adds no added value to the customer respective. Is the customer willing to pay $1 more for what you're doing? Waste is really the symptom rather than the root cause of the problem. Really, at the end of the day, waste points out the problem within the system, and that's what we're trying to root out within the supply chain. The next slide really talks about the 7 areas of waste: overproduction, waiting, transportation, extra processing, extra inventory, unnecessary motion, and defective products. A lot of times, some people will add 8 areas of waste, and the 8th area of waste is skills, underutilization capabilities, delegating cracks to inadequate training, as an example, on the 8th level. There are basically 4 categories of waste which we cover in this course. We have process waste, we have cycle time waste, we have product waste, and we have resource waste. And there's just some examples that you can read on the chart. They're available to download at the end and take it back with you. We'll also talk about, on the value stream, a little bit about calendar time, from the time you take an order, you place an order to a supplier until you basically receive the product. So we'll be addressing the calendar time, working time, and added value time. So the shortest time currently possible for the task, the amount of work time it actually takes to add added value. Everything else is waste. We'll spend a fair amount of time talking about metrics and how are you measuring your supply chain? How are you managing your organization? Are you looking at lagging metrics or leading metrics? How are you applying to make change in the total operation? Are you looking at consistency of deliveries, on-time arrival of materials, predictable order times, prompt shipment and finishing of goods? We'll look at productivity employees, tasks completed by employee per hour. We're talking about takt times. We use takt times within the factory. Or are you using takt times within your office space? The number of transactions per week. If you have very standardized work, you have repeatable tasks, you can actually use this to identify staffing levels. Revenue generated per employee is another key metric you can look at. Process times, the time from the order to it ships, the time from the call to the response, and the time from the arrival to stock, just to name a few. The length of the queues. Do you have just-in-time inventory, or do you have just-in-case inventory? Lead time for shipments, waiting time for resources, delay in processing purchase orders, just to name a few. What is a lean supply chain? A lean supply chain provides information, materials needed for lean production in most efficient, waste-free manner possible. This course will focus really on 6 areas of this, on enhancing methods, reduce of procurement cycle times, elimination of non-added value activities, enhance value creation for the team focus, reduce non-recurring and indirect costs, improving utilization and human resources, and maximizing strategy among related product lines. And we'll be talking about standard bill of materials, standard parts list. We'll be talking about single source procurement, multi-source procurement, and different approaches within the procurement organization. Elements of lean purchasing. Are you doing any of this today? Are you collapsing your cycle times? What's the speed for replacing your inventory? How do you set up direct links to your suppliers? Understanding what appropriate quality is a given, but what is your appropriate quality? Does your supplier really know what it is? What is the direct user provided interface? How are you communicating your demand? How are you getting feedback? Do you have supplier managed inventory? Do you have Kanban with your customers or your suppliers? And the key here is the deeper you go into your supply chain, the better it is and the more efficient you're going to be. And we'll spend a fair amount of time covering that. We will help define what a good supplier looks like. What's the minimized cycle time, make the demand? What quality is appropriate? We'll talk about CPKs of 2 to 4 typically. Do you own the logistics, transportation, or point of use activities? We'll assist in the design of components and products. Does your suppliers come in and help you with that? How do you do new product introduction? And a lot of this stuff is really covered in the Lean Sensi and also in the AME Excellence Award, which you can download on ame.org, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end. Do you really know your business and your customers? Do you know if they're profitable? I mean, in my business, a lot of times they want to come in and look at some of my metrics to make sure I'm profitable, that I'm going to be around. Is your technology a leader in the field, or are you just among the group? Are your prices based on superior processes and services? What type of personal turnover do you have, or do they have? These are all questions that we need to understand how they match up to you, and really, is it a good match for your business? We'll be talking about tools in your toolbox that you can apply within your business. What's the dollar value of lead times? What quality definitions and tools are you using? What knowledge do you have on contracts, and are you applying them to your benefit? Do you have any business-to-business links like Kanban and etc.? Relation building skills. When's the last time you have visited your top 10 suppliers? Do you really know their team? Do you really understand their processes? How are your processes synchronized with other internal functions within your organization? What's the ability and resources to train others? Are you doing any Kaizen events with them, or are they doing any Kaizen events with you, as an example, to help improve the process? Do you really understand their internal systems and your internal systems on MRP or ERP lean production and forecasting, and how are they applied up and down the supply chain, just to name a few. What's lean? This is a very simplistic approach. A lean process enables you to focus on added value versus non-added value and what the key is. And it really goes through 5 steps in the process. You need to identify the value. You need to map the value stream. You need to create the flow. You need to establish a pull system. And then you need continuous improvement or seek perfection. What is lean? This is a very lean approach to continuous improvement and learning. You basically have to identify the current state, expose the problems, do problem solving, improve the state, and really get it to true north and perfection. Now, I talked a little bit about the Lean Sensi. This is available. It's a free app. It's up on the App Store. You can get more information on ame.org. It's a great tool to help self-assessment in your company. You can do it individually. You can have your managers do it and then compare the results across the board. Typically, people that do this and the feedback we've been getting will get a 15 to 20% gain in productivity, a 50% reduction in defects, and an increase in gross margins. But here again, you take the results, you map up a plan for continuous improvement. And oh, by the way, if you're applying for the AME Excellence Award, this is one of the criteria that you have to do the self-assessment and apply that self-assessment with a formal application and a achievement report. Okay, how does that align with the AME Excellence Award? Really, it follows the same categories. If you pull down the AME Excellence Award, it basically talks about policy deployment, safety and environmental and health, manufacturing operations, and then we go into the office area, which is business operations, and how are you applying lean in those areas. Extended value stream, we're talking about engineering, we're talking about supply chain, and this course here really will help you maximize your score in category 5 on your extended value stream. And then we want to see 5 areas of plant results at the end. So here again, you can see it right here, step 1, 2, and 3. These are your approaches today. What it helps you to do is understand and rank and benchmark yourself against a standard and help develop improvement plans. Okay, if you would look at the AME Excellence Award, these are the criteria in there that you need to address. Product and supplier development techniques and tools and principles are necessary for manufacturing success. So what we ask, or what you have to feedback to us if you're applying for the award, is how do you partner with your supplier to minimize total cost of your value stream? What is your focus in regarding supplier certification? Do you have a supplier certification program? Do you require ISO 9000 or AS 9100 or TL? Do you have them do self-certifications? Do you send teams in? Do you have inspection process? Do they certify their material before it comes in? What is your supplier focus on continuous improvement and improvement in your business results? What are your process to achieve perfection in product and supplier management? What innovative processes are being used to improve market service and logistics? This is just to name a few that are some of the questions examples that we are asking you to give us some feedback if you do apply for the award. This year, we've got, I think we had over 14 people apply for the AME Excellence Award. If you haven't looked into it, you really need to look into it. It's a great process. in regards to making sure you're on the lean journey. If nothing else, you'll get some great feedback from people that have been in the industry for years in regards to what they think you're doing well and recommendations for how you can improve. Um, we at IPTU Global here in San Antonio have not only applied for the AME Excellence Award, but we also have won the Shingo Award for Manufacturing Excellence, just to name a couple. They're great tools and great feedback systems to really help you drive your bottom line in your business. Okay, here again, I want to stress this. This Lean Sensi is a great tool. It's free. If you get up on the line and look at some other organizations, they may have similar products, but there's a charge for it. Take your time. Go to the App Store, download the AME Sensi. I highly recommend that you do that. It's a great tool. I've used it with my teams here, and I've actually taken it out and worked with some of my suppliers. And it really is a great thing to get everybody in line. And if some people think you're great within your team, other people identify where the warts are. Well, you want to find where the warts are so you can address the issue to really make the whole process better and eliminate the waste. So it's a great tool that I recommend that you not only take advantage of it, but you encourage your supply chain to use it too. Here again, we've got this workshop coming up, Manage a Lean Efficient Supply Chain, coming up in San Antonio on the 23rd and 24th. Because you've attended the webinar today, we're offering a special 20% discount off the registration fee. The code is SAMA, S-A-M-A, and you can register, go to ame.org or hit on this link right here. And here's a picture of my cat. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Doug. Again, if you have questions, please type them into the panel on the right side of your screen and click submit. We do have a couple that have come in. The first question here is, where or how should we start our lean office journey?
I think the first way to start is really through value streams. And we spent a lot of time in this workshop talking about value streams, how to do a value stream and really understand it. You know, a lot of people will start their lean journey and they think it's through their 5S program in regards to housekeeping. And housekeeping is an easy way to get into lean. I agree with that. We've taken at least the 5S program and added 6, which is now safety. So we have the 5 principle of lean through Toyota, and then we've added safety. And we're coming up on our 8th year without a lost time accident. So that program is excellent too. But here again, identifying the value stream and focusing it. And it's not only your value stream, it's your customer's value stream. Do you understand what their primary value stream is that you're feeding your product into? Because with their extended value stream, they want to know how you fit in with theirs. So it's a great discussion to have with your suppliers.
Okay, we have a couple questions specific to some areas that'll be covered in the workshop. The first is, what lean tools will be covered in that workshop?
Well, if you would get up on the website, you'll see a number of tools, and we cover a lot in 2 days. It's really it's drinking a little bit from a fire hose. You know, we'll go through the fundamental of supply chain management. We're basically sources of waste and operation operation improvements to eliminate the waste. The 5 principles of lean thinking, which is part of the Toyota message. We're talking about Kaizen events and mini Kaizen events, exception management. We're talking about transaction costs. We're talking about lean partnerships, outsourcing issues that are pretty common across the industry, and how can we learn from each other. And the great thing about it is you have a whole lot of people from different industries there that share experiences. And as we work the different projects that you have to report out at the end of the 2 days, there's a lot of great discussion going on. What's the cost of carrying inventory? Do you do time batching and just-in-time information flow? sources of work methods or standard work within the thing. What's your urgency-based network coordination between your customers within your organization and within your production area, and how do you flow that down to your supply chain? We'll talk a little bit about business-to-business communication and how you're sharing information. May it be drawings, quality requirements, procurement requirements, scheduling, whatever may be the case. How do you establish linkage and flow? Testing the value of in transactions, are they value added or non-added value? Visual communications and control, the visual factory. Matter of fact, the Southwest next year will be doing a workshop with Gwendolyn Galsworth, Dr. Galsworth. She's written 5 books on the topic, and we'll be doing something at Toyota Motors here in San Antonio, including a tour of Toyota Motors in the second day of the workshop we do here. So stay tuned; you'll be hearing more about that. We're talking about the reserve system. You know, much like you make an appointment for a restaurant to have, or you make an appointment at a hotel for a room, what type of reserve systems are you using to establish capacity at your supply chain? We're talking about integrated material teams, especially in new product introduction. We're talking about standard work and method templates that you can apply within your business. We're talking about tack times and pull systems. We're talking about the lean and versus lean make approach versus buy approach, visual communications, and lessons learned from the information and queuing theory. And that's a lot to cover, but we go in great detail on all of them, and we have some great discussions. Well, thank you for asking. That was a great question.
Here's another question. Will there be anything in the course that will help us to convince our leadership that working on lean in the supply chain will bring value to the company?
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I've been on this lean journey. I've turned around 3 companies right now with applying lean principles. And I can tell you right now, M2 Global wouldn't be here today if we didn't walk the talk. And hopefully we'll help you with the tools, or at the end of the day, I'll be glad to talk to your senior management and try to convince them why it's really important. It works. Trust me, it works.
Okay, another question on the workshop. Will the workshop go into more detail on the 7 areas of waste, and will it cover supplier performance system?
Yeah, we'll do a combination of both. We spend a lot of 7 areas of waste. We talk about it a little bit within the factory, but we talk about it also in the total enterprise. We're actually talk a little bit about the 8th level of waste that I mentioned a little bit before. And then what was the second part of that question, Judy?
Will it cover supplier performance system?
Oh, supplier performance. Yeah, we're talking about supplier certification programs, the supplier report cards, follow-up systems, and we're actually show you some examples, and we'll actually give you an ISO procedure on how to set one up, and that will be all part of the course.
Okay, we have one last question. Will the workshop help us to be prepared to apply for the AME Excellence Award?
It most certainly will. I mean, I talked about the area that the criteria that I covered in here. It will definitely enhance that category, but it will also enhance the operation portion of the award, which is 300 points actually out of 1,000. So, I mean, there's 150 within the production area and another 150 within the support areas. So it will definitely help enhance your score for the AME Excellence Award. If you haven't looked into that award, it is a great program. It really kind of covers all areas of your enterprise. If you're thinking about eventually going for the Shingo Prize, it leads right into it. They're complementary. If you're thinking about applying for the AME, SME, and Shingo bronze, silver, or gold certification, it all leads into what you need to put together for your portfolio for those certifications. So it's a great tool. Hopefully you get a lot of takeaways you can take back to your business. We try to get the teams to focus on real life problems within your operation. So as we put you together with teams, we ask you to identify a problem, and then the teams are trying to work through that value stream and recommendations on how you can address the areas of waste and get the next level of improvement. So that's what we're hoping for at the end of the second day for the takeaways.
Great. That completes questions, Doug. Thank you very much. Again, we want to remind you to visit ame.org to register for the workshop July 23rd and 24th in San Antonio, and use the discount code SAMA, S-A-M-A, it's on your screen right now, when you register. And this brings our webinar today to a close. Thank you, everyone, for joining.